Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it is Thursday, June 4th, and it is 10:39 p.m. I'm getting a late start tonight, but at least I'm getting a start. So let's go over, we're going to be catching up on the news tonight. Now, I fully realize that there are a ton of Q posts today, but unfortunately I'm going to have to wait until tomorrow to get those to you. So tomorrow you can look forward to the Q posts from today, and probably Q will be posting tomorrow as well. So we'll get caught up with that tomorrow. All right, but tonight we're going to concentrate on the news, and I do have a few people to thank via coffee donations. Mike, thank you very much, Mike. Anon, Connie Starr, you are a star, Connie, and Bonnie T, and Joan W. Thank you guys so much. It is so much appreciated. So much appreciated. All right, let's go on now and get to the news. All right. I found this and I thought this was very, very interesting. Rioters conveniently burned down the club that Chauvin and Floyd worked at together for 17 years. Interesting, 17 years they worked together, and yet the mainstream media is trying to convince us that they didn't know one another, even though they worked at the same club. Now, this is not a massive place of employment that employs hundreds and hundreds of people, but, you know, and wherever I've worked, I've known other people that worked with me. They may not have worked on the same shift as me, but I still knew of them, and you know, would say hey to them when I passed them. So I don't quite believe this, that yeah, they worked there but they didn't know each other. Yeah, right. Tell that to somebody who might believe it, because I don't. Anyway, they worked together for 17 years. Rioters also burned down the 3rd Precinct police station that held all kinds of evidence. There was nothing to see in either place. Move along. Right. Deep state burning evidence? Maybe. It is curious that that club was burnt down. Why would they burn down that club where he worked, that had employed him? Maybe because Chauvin also worked there? I don't know. But it just seems a little bit strange that they burnt down that club and burnt down the police station. Doesn't that seem a little odd to you? I'm just saying. Okay, well, let's go on now. And this is something else I found that is a little bit gobsmacking. So let's read this. George Floyd's death was a hit. New evidence suggests that the nightclub where George Floyd and Derek worked is tied to intelligence and money laundering. The media and no one else is touching this fact or wants to discuss this information. All in all, they were all avoiding talking about the nightclub they both worked at and how weird that is, especially in a murder case when 2 of the people involved had personal or work relations. It opens up questions and should be used in an investigation. Let me start off with the most obvious and fishy fact about this case. The same man who did the autopsy on JFK and Epstein is the one supposedly analyzing Floyd's death, or his dead body. So let's start. The defense lawyer the family has chosen to represent them is Ben Crump, the same money-hungry and attention-whore actor, lawyer that represented the shitty PSYOP, I'm just reading what's there, folks, PSYOP cases of George Zimmerman and Michael Brown, which caused the Ferguson riot in 2014, and also conveniently started when an AutoZone was burned, just like in Minneapolis. Anyways, hello, Ben. Good to see you again. Oh, you're right. Nothing makes sense. And then come up here. By now, Benjamin Crump is investigating, and he is discovering that everything around El Nuevo Rodeo, the Mexican cantina and dance club where George and Derek worked, is sketchy. Likely Ben and Daryl have realized it's better to focus their financial strategy towards reparations from the city of Minneapolis, because this incident hits on something even Crump doesn't want to touch. El Nuevo Rodeo, hereafter ENR, is a front business. Nothing is as it seems. The background ownership of ENR takes you to a shady network of LLCs and the name Omar Investments, Inc., established 1996. Let's come down, dig a little deeper, and something else becomes evident. The ownership might connect one or more U.S. three-letter agencies. The ownership network has previous interactions with FBI operations in and around Minneapolis. This is not surprising because Minneapolis, Minnesota has more national security operations ongoing than any other community in the country. Various Somali groups are being watched, and anyone can do a Google search to see where those security operations peek out of the surface. Omar Investments, Inc. owns El Nuevo Rodeo, Cantina, and Nightclub since 1996. The principal of Omar Investments, Inc. is Muna Sabri. In 2001, a close relative, Basim Sabri, was captured by the FBI in a sting operation. In 2001, FBI agents recorded Sabri giving Heron $5,000 cash intended to curry the lawmaker's support for his development. Sabri was later convicted on 3 bribery counts and fined $75,000. FBI intercept in 2001. There's the capture. That's the asset creation point for U.S. security to find a way to embed within Minneapolis and assist the Sabris along the way. And of course, he is including the links here as well, which we don't have time to go out to, but I may do that and do, a whole video on that, because there's a lot here, a lot. And obviously, I think this person has found something very, very significant. The presented former club owner, Maya Santamaria, seen on television, appears to be a purposeful front, a face useful in deflecting attention from the primary owner in operations. With that in mind, the scale of false information in and around the visible event, horrible as it was, creates layers and layers of purposeful misinformation and a need to control what the public sees in the media. As I said before, what are you doing? As I said before, what did I say before? What are you doing? Okay, as I said before, I prefer to sit this one out. However, it is interesting if you consider that El Nuevo Rodeo might likely be a front for a 3-letter national security agency, or at the very least, a valuable inside source for domestic intelligence and surveillance. Things start reconciling rather quickly. ENR also looks like a money laundering operation. Part of that laundry operation appears to involve counterfeit currency. Counterfeit currency. Where have we recently seen counterfeit currency in the news? Where was that? Where was that? Yeah, of course. That's why George was arrested, for a counterfeit $20 bill. All right. Part of that laundry operation appears to involve counterfeit currency. This enterprise, writ large, looks like the answer to how a U.S. agency infiltrated the background criminal network in Minnesota to watch and monitor for domestic threats. So there are layers to what is visible and a myriad of interests involved. Officer Derek Chauvin is a 19-year veteran of the Minneapolis Police Department. Derek Chauvin also worked at ENR for 17 years. That timeline puts Derek Chauvin showing up to work security at El Nuevo Rodeo, Cantina, and Club right after the FBI bus Basim Sabri. Everyone remembers what intel agencies were doing right after 9/11/01. Recently, when the Wuhan virus hits the nightclub, when the Wuhan virus hits the nightclub, it needs to shut down. By extension, this shuts down any illicit activity maintained by the legit operation. any activity within a laundering operation would have to be paused. It would look silly, very suspicious, if the ENR Club bookkeeper was making bank deposits while the business is closed. However, this also means George Floyd was out of work. According to the indictment, the police were called because George Floyd was passing counterfeit $20 bills. Could the way Chauvin and the reporters writ large interacted with George Floyd have been an outcropping of concern that Lloyd was putting the ENR operation at risk? Now, this is pretty gobsmacking, if ever there was anything that was gobsmacking. And I don't know. I can't say that it's true, but I mean, he's got links to the articles here. I mean, this looks legit, but I am going to be looking into this further because there's a lot to investigate just in that. So I find that much easier to believe than the fact that this officer just knelt on this guy's neck until he died, while he had to have been aware that somebody was recording him because he looks right up at he doesn't care. Yeah, almost like it was staged. Almost. I'm not saying that this man didn't die, and unjustly, but it's not, I don't believe the official narrative. I don't believe it at all. And probably you don't either. Too many holes in it. Okay, well, let's go on. All right. Okay, I'm not quite sure why I clicked on that. I'm not quite sure why I included that, to tell you the truth. I don't know. But let's go on now. This is something interesting and horrifying at the same time. Eye gouging and PowerPoint. Project Veritas, infiltrates Antifa in undercover video. Andy, no, this is organized terrorism. No doubt it's organized terrorism. It's quite evident that it's organized. Gee, my first tip-off was the bricks placed conveniently in all the riot locations. Oh, I'm sorry, the peaceful protest locations. Oregon's notoriously secretive Rose City Antifa meets regularly like a business to train in weapons and tactics, including eye gouging, as well as how to engage in violence without getting caught, according to a video released Thursday by Project Veritas. In what may be the first video of Antifa's inner workings, the hidden camera footage shows what was described as training sessions, in some cases using PowerPoint, by Rose City Antifa leaders inside Portland, Oregon bookshop before a room of apparently young, white recruits. Practice things like an eye gouge. It takes very little pressure to injure someone's eyes, said a man identified as Nicholas Kifuni in a recon and tactics class. He was also recorded on audio delivering a profanity-laced warning to recruits about being too obvious while engaging in violence lest they draw the attention of police. Don't be that effing guy with the GD spiked brass knuckles getting photos taken of you, he said. Police are going to be like, perfect, we can prosecute these efforts. Look how violent they are, and not that we're not, but police are going to be like, perfect, we can prosecute these effers. Look how violent they are. And not that we're not, but we need to effing hide that shit. Just reading what's there, folks. All right. And so that is that. I have not seen the video yet from Project Veritas, but it's on my list of to do. There's just so much information and so much happening that it's hard to keep up with everything, but I do definitely want to see that. Okay, let's go back and let's come down to this. Now, this is by an anon. Again, very, very interesting. Much the same as what we read previously. George Floyd was a hit job to protect a money laundering operation. FBI, at El Nuevo Rodeo. Owned by Omar Investments, Mooney Sabri, relative Bassem Sabri, busted by FBI on 3 bribery counts in 2001. 9/11/01 intel agencies scramble to monitor for domestic threats, creates asset point for U.S. security to embed in Minneapolis to monitor Somalis. El Nuevo Rodeo Restaurant Club, possibly involved in money laundering. Derek Chauvin and George Floyd worked together at Club Chauvin for 17 years, right after Sabi is busted by FBI, by default shuts down illegal activity by legit operation, resulting in any activity in laundering counterfeit deposits by bookkeeper would be suspicious while business is closed, resulting in George Floyd being out of work, no pay. Police called to Cup Foods where George Floyd reportedly passing fake 20. Chauvin responds to call and executes hit on Floyd for potentially putting El Nuevo Rodeo operation at risk. Floyd resists getting into car. He did not resist. From everything that I saw, he was not resisting. Where he knew, Floyd resists getting into car where he knew he would disappear. Chauvin kills Floyd in public, broad daylight, with multiple cameras capturing event. EMTs responding are Sheriff Department, not medical, load body, no charges filed in 2006 Chauvin shooting incident, possibly related. El Nuevo in Los Angeles is taken down as a drug trafficking ring between U.S. and Mexico in 2015 by DEA. Possible that El Rodeo Nuevo El Rodeo takes over where ERLA left off for Northern Trade. Well, isn't this getting interesting? I knew there was more to it. Now, I didn't expect that, but I think we all knew there's more to this story. All right. Now let's look at this for more gobsmackingly interesting stuff. Yes. This is, get ready for this one, really. Timothy Japhet, attorney at law. I was George Floyd's lawyer. Dumbasses can't even pick a good fake dead guy. Now is the time to get, okay, hang on here. I got to make this a little bigger because, Now is the time to get mad. Now is the time to approach your leaders and ask them how much more before they stand up and fight for us. I have never mentioned anything but facts witnessed with my own eyes. I saw the vacant tents set up around hospitals for the sick that never came. I watched as businesses closed to a hoax. I saw bodies removed from homes because they were too afraid to go to the hospital because of quarantine. I saw our leaders shred the Constitution that elected them. Now I saw a black man who I played college football against, allegedly killed on camera 30 years later. But guess what? They messed up. That's not the same guy. I remember this guy, and he died a few years ago right here in Corpus Christi. I was his lawyer. Dumbasses can't even pick a good fake dead guy. Back when he played, it was Texas A&I. It was the original junior college for kids who couldn't get into the major schools. This guy and Johnny Bailey played together. I played for Abilene Christian University as I walk on. I was not good and didn't last a few cuts each year. My freshman year was we played them in Abilene. Johnny Bailey single-handedly beat us on 2 toss sweeps and a punt return. Sadly, he abruptly passed after a stellar year with the Chicago Bears. However, the name of the man they are using who died, he died here in Corpus Christi 3 years ago. He did play for Texas A&I, and he did live on the streets here, and he did die here. However, he didn't die in Minnesota. To top it off, I was his court-appointed guardian ad litem before he passed at Spone Memorial. Before he died, me and him talked about that game with Johnny Bailey and Abilene Christian and Texas A&M in 1989. So what I'm telling you is that the man they claim who died in Minneapolis at the hands of the police did not die there. That man died in Corpus Christi, Texas in Christus Spoon Memorial ICU with me as his guardian ad litem, and he is buried at the Pauper Cemetery in Flower Bluff. His sister flew down here from Minnesota saying she was going to give him a proper burial, but she never came back officially, though since then that body could have been removed. Nobody keeps too much of an account of the cemetery anyhow. So what are we going to do about this? Now, there's a lot to this. That's, you know, and then there's like a part one. Oh, okay. This is just the link to it because it was on, this came from Facebook. Timothy D. Jaffet, attorney at law. And this is what he posted. Now, I don't know, but this is getting very, very interesting if you ask me. Is this the same guy? Did he die back then? I don't know. This is all very, very strange. Very, very strange. And you know something? It's getting stranger and stranger and stranger. Now, so I don't know, but that's something else that I'm going to need to look into, because I'm not going to just take this as fact because we don't know, but it's interesting. I don't know what to think about it. It also could be misinformation that's being put out to keep us all confused. So it's hard to tell because there's so many psyops going on simultaneously that it's hard not to get caught in one. You know, they're putting out fake news. They put out fake, you know, they've got trolls everywhere, putting out disinformation. It's very hard to keep up. So if I got that wrong, please forgive me, but it is definitely something to check out. Okay, now let's look at this. Son of Minnesota's Attorney General, I hereby declare officially my support for Antifa. Yeah, you heard that right. The son of Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison tweeted on Sunday that he is declaring his support for Antifa after President Trump said that his administration would be declaring it a terrorist organization. Jeremiah Ellison, who is a member of the Minneapolis City Council, noted in the tweet that he believes white power terrorists are actually the ones engaging in the looting, arson, and the other riot activities as violent sects hijack some of the protests against racial inequality and police brutality in the wake of George Floyd last Monday. I hereby declare officially my support for Antifa, Ellison said. Unless someone can prove to me Antifa is behind the burning of Black and immigrant-owned businesses in my ward, I'll keep focusing on stopping the white power terrorists. They are actually attacking us. Right. Floyd died in the custody of the Minneapolis Police Department after officials said Officer Derek Chauvin used his knee to pin Floyd, who was Black, to the ground. Okay, well, we're just going over information that we already know, and there's no need to do that. And says it's not clear that Antifa is behind all or even most of the violence in the widespread protests, but the movement has been a target of Republican politicians who have made it clear they stand with peaceful protesters they say are justifiably angry about Floyd's death and other racially charged interactions between African Americans and police in recent months. It's Antifa and the radical left don't lay the blame on others, Trump tweeted on Saturday. Democrats, however, have sought to blame white supremacists for at least some of the violence. And says this by Mayor Jacob Frey, we are now confronting white supremacists, members of organized crime, out-of-state instigators, and possibly even foreign actors to destroy and destabilize our city and region. And Keith Ellison himself on Fox News Sunday said there were outsiders involved in the violence in his state, although he did not further detail what kind of outsiders these people might be, we have evidence that outsiders have been present in, and some cases have played a very negative role. But I've been talking with protesters and trying to get a sense of who some of these folks are, and I've heard mixed things, Ellison said. Some of the negative stuff has come from people in Minnesota, and some of it has come from people on the outside. What I'd say is that we've got enough to handle on our own, and that what we really need to do is refocus on justice for Mr. Floyd, and the negative behavior, looting, arson, does not help us achieve that goal. Keith Ellison has previously signaled support for Antifa movement, tweeting in 2018 about a book promoting it. And there he is. So do I trust anything that Ellison has to say? Let me see now. Heck no. In a post on Twitter, Ellison said that he found the book Antifa, the Anti-Fascist Handbook, at a Minneapolis bookshop, and said it would strike fear in the heart of Donald Trump. The post now appears to be deleted, but social media critics have circulated a photo of Ellison holding the book in recent days. Neither Keith nor Jeremiah Ellison's offices immediately responded to a request from Fox News for comment. Well, naturally they wouldn't. On the tweet by the Minneapolis city council member, an effort has been made to request comment from Walz. So anyway, there you go. Now that news is getting a little bit old at this point. So you may have heard it already. I'm sure you probably did. But let's move on now. Ridiculous. Lego is removing their police, firefighter, and emergency vehicle playsets along with the adult White House kit. I wonder if they'll come out with an Antifa set where you don't build anything, you just destroy other kids' structures. Yeah, Lego pulls back police playset affiliate marketing amid George Floyd protests, originally published on June 2nd, and it was updated June 3rd. Yeah, so, yeah. How do you like that? Lego, all up into politics. Well, what do you say we go on? All right. I knew you'd say that, so let's go. Okay. Breaking over a million views in 2 hours, and Twitter took expose Antifa off the United States trending list. Yeah, well, here you go. This is 4 minutes and 42 seconds, but I think I'm going to play it. I think this is the one that the other was talking about, so.
July of 2000, depending on the setting, if I were to be caught or found out in a setting where I am present with them, it could escalate to violence against me.
Don't be that f***ing guy with the goddamn spiked brass knuckles getting photos taken of you. Police are going to be like, perfect, we can prosecute these f***ers. Look how violent they are. Right? Not that we're not, but we need f***ing hide.
That guy you just saw that banged his head on the cement has since died. Just FYI.
So currently I am a prospect for Rose City Antifa, and I am about halfway through the prospecting process to become a full-fledged member of Antifa.
If you ruin their day, if you heckle them, you make them feel like they look ridiculous, you make them feel outnumbered, and therefore their whole yay America Trump thing is going to go by the wayside.
They reached out to me through Proton Mail, and we went back and forth, and there was an interview set to meet up in Portland. So to verify that it was me, they had me wear a white shirt and have a water bottle and show up at a Starbucks where a person was going to ID me and approach me and asked who I was, and I told them, and I followed them to the destination where the interview was going to be held. There, we went to a place called Imperial. They were getting this trade craft from someone else, someone with much more experience, someone who did this for a living. Caroline, which is the founder of RCA, moved to Sweden with her husband, who is a dual citizen. So there's a back and forth with a European connection.
Rose City Antifa holds required lectures for prospective members in secret, in other words, bookstore, before they open. And as part of their security culture, they require us to put our phones in the bathroom next door. This bathroom is not only away from the main room where the lecture is taking place, but also has a fan that muffles any sound from the room.
The whole goal of this, right, is to get out there and do dangerous things as safely as possible.
How violent is Antifa or RCA in particular?
Practice things like a knife job. It takes very little pressure to injure someone's eyes.
They do not hesitate to either push back or incite some kind of violence. In our classes and in our meetings, before we do any sort of demonstration or black bloc, we talk about weapons detail and what we carry and what we should have. What is black bloc? Well, this is black bloc right now. The term is used to a tactic in which individuals conceal their identity to look uniform so that no one can be identified in an act of a crime. With RCA, it seems much more structured, almost like a company or like a business. So, I feel like there is some type of outside funding, influence, or resources being used.
Consider like destroying your enemy, not like delivering a really awesome right hand, right left eye blow, It's not boxing, it's not kickboxing, it's like destroying your enemy.
Yeah, well, and we know that. We know that they're very well organized. They have to have some sort of structure at the top, organizing downward. And we know where they get at least some of their funding. So it's not surprising to know that they're violent because we've seen it. So let's go back because there's more. All right. Okay. Now, Soros-backed St. Louis Circuit Attorney releases all rioters and looters from jail without charges following Monday's mass rioting. Well, isn't that special? The Soros-backed DA in St. Louis just did what Soros wanted her to do. She released every looter and rioter from the past week without filing a single charge against them. St. Louis DA already had the reputation of being a criminal's best friend forever, and now she cements that position. Remember, this is right after 4 policemen were shot in St. Louis. The champagne flowed in the DA's office the next day. How will you ever stop riots when no one goes to jail or even to trial? If they are picked up again, Kim Gardner will just set them free again. Do you still question which side progressives are on? No, I never questioned it, to tell you the truth. In a stunning development, our office has learned that every single one of the St. Louis looters and rioters arrested were released back onto the streets by local prosecutor Kim Gardner. Okay, that's basically saying the same thing. In St. Louis City, far-left lunatic Kim Gardner took money from Soros in her race for St. Louis Circuit Attorney. Soros-funded PAC even released an ad in support of this far-left and unqualified nutcase. Kim Gardner is so intolerable that 24 attorneys and more than 1/3 of the trial lawyers left the office when she was hired, and this is a Democrat-dominated office. In early January, St. Louis police arrested a drug dealer in possession of over 1,000 highly addictive opiate pills and more than $30,000 in cash. The St. Louis police officers also got a confession from their suspect, but when investigators brought their evidence to Gardner's circuit attorney's office in downtown St. Louis, the attorneys refused to press charges against the dealer and handed the police report back to the officers. All right. So, there you go. It's hard to believe, isn't it, that anybody is that corrupt? It is very hard to believe. I don't get it personally. And you know something? I'm really glad I don't get it. I'm glad. I'm glad that that is so far beyond and outside of my reasoning, because my gosh, please somebody kill me if I ever become like that. And I won't, with the Lord's help. All right. Now here's something interesting. It's interesting. I don't know if I agree with it, but it's interesting. CDC Director George Floyd's protest could be CV seating event. Well, they say that the coronavirus affects blacks twice as often as it affects whites. So I don't know. It's a possibility, I suppose. And it says Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Robert Redfield expressed concerns Thursday that the mass protests could have been taking place in the aftermath of George Floyd's death could exacerbate the CV pandemic as crowds of people gather in close proximity, often without masks. Redfield appeared before a House Appropriations Subcommittee to address the government's response to COVID-19 when the protests were mentioned on more than one occasion. I do think that there is a potential, unfortunately, for this to be a seating event, Redfield told Representative Louis Frankel, Democrat, Florida. Redfield suggested that protesters get tested to prevent spreading the virus. Frankel asked what states can do if the numbers end up going up to the point of overwhelming contact tracing abilities. Redfield said he is working to make sure that does not happen, but noted this is not a time to be understaffed. At another point in the hearing, in response to a question from Representative Lucille Roybal-Allard, Democrat, California, Redfield addressed the protests and people crowding on beaches without face masks by saying that the CDC is very concerned that our public health message isn't resonating. Yeah, I wonder why it isn't resonating. Gee. Representative Mark Pocan, Democrat, Wisconsin, addressed an incident that took place in Washington, D.C. earlier this week when officers cleared a crowd from Lafayette Square before presidential photo op by using what had initially been reported to be tear gas before the U.S. Park Police said they used smoke canisters and pepper balls. Pocan asked if tear gas and similar chemical agents can cause coughing that would spread COVID-19, to which Redfield said they can. Pocan then asked Redfield if he advised President Trump, the military, or law enforcement not to use such agents on protesters due to the risk of spreading COVID-19. I think you raise an important point, Redfield said, adding, I'll pass on this comment to the next task force meeting. Yeah, I can imagine how that went over. Really, I can imagine how that went over in the task force meeting. Really, I just picture it. He again noted the importance of protesters wearing masks while assembled. All right. I think you can tell what I think of this without me even saying it. Or maybe you can't. I think you can. Pretty smart people. Okay. Alrighty. Now let's look at this. Another thing that's going to make you go, Minneapolis City Council members consider disbanding the police. Yes, that's what we need. That's what we need. Yeah, just disband the police. I'm sure everything will be peaceful then. Right. You imagine? Like, seriously. No, they're serious. This isn't a joke. They're serious. They want to disband the police. Yeah. I bet you things will just improve like that. If you've been tuned into the Minneapolis public safety scene, you know that for years, Reclaim the Block and other grassroots community groups have been asking the city to do one thing: stop investing in policing. Budget meeting after budget meeting, they turn out with their petitions and signs demanding the city put less money into its police department and more money into programs that stop crimes from happening in the first place: affordable housing, addiction counseling, violence prevention programs, all good things, all good things. The council's been listening. I think we've had a vision for a while of wanting to see another kind of city response to those 911 calls. Says council member Steve Fletcher, whose Ward 3 covers part of downtown. Calls about mental health crisis could be answered by mental health professionals. Well, I think that's a good idea. I thought that way back when I was in the police here, that it's not a good idea to have police respond to mental health calls. It really isn't. It doesn't help anything. They're not trained in that. So that's just my 2 cents there. Calls about opioid abuse could be answered by addiction experts. Instead, both get cops, usually armed, but it's one thing to think that's a good idea and another to get it done. The city has struggled to put any of these reforms in place in a substantial way, Fletcher says. Then George Floyd was killed by Minneapolis police. Now the council members are listening to a city that is wounded, angry, fed up with decades of violence disproportionately visited upon Black and brown residents. Various private and public bodies, from First Avenue to Minneapolis public schools, have essentially cut ties with the police department. Council members are trying to figure out what their next move is. Their discussion is starting to sound a little more like what groups like Reclaim the Block and Black Visions Collective have been saying for years. On Tuesday, Fletcher published a lengthy Twitter thread saying the police department was irredeemably beyond reform and a protection racket that slows down responses as political payback. Several of us on the council are working on finding out what it would take to disband the Minneapolis Police Department and start fresh with a community-oriented, nonviolent public safety and outreach capacity, he wrote. You can peruse that thread in its entirety here. No thanks, I'd rather dig my eyes out with spoons. But anyway, yeah. Council member Philippe Cunningham retweeted the thread saying police slowdowns after cut budgets have been his exact experience as a council member. Council member Alondra Cano was also among those who chimed in with similar but more concise note. Fletcher says the entire council, to some degree, has been discussing disbanding the police department as an option. He doesn't yet know what that will look like. Oh, I do. Don't you? I mean, it doesn't take, a brain surgeon. Really, it doesn't. Oh my gosh, do you know what would be better than disbanding the police? Is getting rid of the Democrat overlords that are in charge of that state. I'm just saying. But now, more than ever, this feels within reach. Earlier this week, the council members unanimously signed on in support of the Minnesota Department of Human Rights incoming investigation into the police department. In a joint statement, the council wrote, "We urge the state to use its full weight to hold the Minneapolis Police Department accountable for any and all abuses of power and harms to our community and stand ready to aid in this process as full partners. The City Council's oversight of the Minneapolis Police Department has been historically constrained by the city charter and state law, and we welcome new tools to pursue." Well, you all are tools, so I don't know why you're asking for new tools. You already have all the tools that you need right there. They're all tools. To pursue transformational structural changes to how the city provides for public safety. The power of the state, Fletcher said, might allow them to do things once thought politically impossible on the city level. Well, let's see how that works out for them. I'm just saying. So I'm not going to well, it says, after all, this is an idea that came from residents led by black and brown people in the first place. This is our responsibility for not getting this done faster, he said. Yeah. And also he said Fletcher's looking forward to conversations with the community on how a new public safety approach would work, including some deeply uncomfortable conversations about use of force and whether it still has a place in the city's approach to law enforcement. But what he's seen the community do already to take care of itself, forming fire watches, putting up unhoused folks in hotels, looking out for one another in a time of unrest, gives him hope for the future. Well, I'm glad he has hope for the future. But any city that would disband, any city or state that would disband its police department, I would move pronto. Seriously. All right. Well, let's go back and go on. Now, okay, I would like to say that I came across this and I feel that I need to let you guys know, but I don't know how viable and how, I mean, if this has been vetted or where this came from, but it's from Natural News. I really love that website for the most part. But it says, breaking, Antifa terrorists to be bused to Sparta, Illinois, with orders to burn farmhouses and kill livestock in rural white areas. Now, this is from yesterday. Now, I have heard some people say that that is true, that they have heard this, but I don't know. But really, if you're anywhere in that area, please, please be safe. Today's Natural News has learned that Antifa operatives are organizing a plan to bus large numbers of Antifa terrorists to the vicinity of Sparta, Illinois, where they will be directed to target rural white Americans by burning farmhouses and killing livestock. What does that accomplish? You know, you kill the people that grow your food? Are you stupid? Really? Like, honestly, how stupid does one have to be? Pretty stupid. Like in South Africa, where they killed all the farms and all the white farmers and, you know, took away their farms, killed their livestock. And what's happening now? Well, they're finding out. Food shortage. Yeah, that, you know, who in their right mind thinks, I think it's a good idea to kill the farmers? Anyway, let's go on. These people, they're real mental, well, they're mental midgets, really. They think they're mental giants, but really they're even lower than mental midgets. Okay, well, let's see, where did I leave off? The purpose of the attack, according to sources, is so that Antifa can send a message to white America that not even rural whites are safe from the reach of Antifa, and that if their radical left-wing demands are not met, it should say, all of America will burn, not just the cities. Sources tell Natural News that Antifa terrorists are currently expected to move along state routes 154 and 4, seeking out rural targets, including isolated homes and farms, to cause maximum mayhem and property destruction. Although our sources did not specifically mention the methods by which killing livestock would be accomplished, it seems almost certain that firearms would be most effective way for Antifa terrorists to achieve that morbid goal. That is, oh my gosh, that is just... And what did these people ever do? What did they ever do? They're just trying to live in the country, be at peace, you know, and provide food. Anyway, says Facebook will not allow you to show this because it's been blacklisted. Note, it is possible that Antifa may alter its planned routes of destruction based on the appearance of this report. Although our sources are highly reliable individuals, the disinformation warfare tactics of Antifa are incredibly advanced and part of the art of war to make your enemy think you're in one place while you're actually attacking another. We are told that the timing of this attack is this coming weekend, which could indicate Friday, Saturday, or Sunday night. Today, we are urging the citizens of Sparta to prepare for the possibility of Antifa terrorism activities in their area. We are especially urging individuals who have houses located near the major highways to be on alert for attempted arson, property destruction, shootings, or the killing of livestock. Sparta, Illinois is a small town of just 4,300 people, according to the 2010 census. It is located in Randolph County and is roughly 45 miles southeast of St. Louis, the regional home of the Ferguson, Missouri riots of 2014. Rural towns around Sparta include Blair, Tilden, Coulterville, Baldwin, Cutler, Willisville, Bremen, and Chester. Illinois, dominated by anti-gun Democrats, is a state where citizens are not allowed to defend themselves with firearms. This is likely why Antifa is targeting Illinois for the kind of destruction that would be immediately halted by a barrage of return gunfire in states like Texas, Florida, or Tennessee. In Illinois, Antifa terrorists practically have their own shooting gallery of unarmed civilians who have been forcibly disarmed by the corrupt anti-Second Amendment politicians in Chicago. We encourage all law enforcement in Randolph County to be on high alert this coming weekend. This will not be your normal weekend of dragging overdosed, methed up, heroin-addicted white boys to the emergency rooms in Chester and Waterloo. This is going to be something on an entirely different level if Antifa makes good on its current plans. They've been labeled a terrorist organization by President Trump, and the actions of Antifa, property destruction, arson, looting, attempted murder of police officers, and extreme violence toward innocent people, reveals the terrorism goal of the radical left-wing organization. With this tactic of moving into rural America, Antifa seems to be deciding that burning down left-wing cities isn't having the fear effect they hope to achieve. For many nights, Antifa groups have been threatening to fan out to the suburbs and start targeting white America. And you can see this. This is from Black Lives Matter. I don't even want to read this right now, but hopefully you can see this and read it for yourself. I'll just pause for a minute. I just don't want to the YouTube algorithms pick it up. Yeah. This is, honestly, I'm just telling you that if I was living in that area, I would be frightened, especially if I didn't have a weapon. I would be extra frightened. So anyway, we need to pray for that area. We need to pray that this is not so, because no more innocent people need to die. This is unbelievable. And killing people's livelihoods, that livestock is their livelihood. That's how they make a living. That's how they feed us. That's where we get our food. Just for you people that are extra special, you know, ride the short bus. Yeah, these are the people that grow our food. So not a good idea to kill them or their animals. All right, well, I'm going to stop there because, and I really hope that this is just fear porn. That's what I'm hoping it is. But I don't know that because, you know, when we take a look at the enemy there, it's, they are not above doing something like that at all. Probably with funding from George Soros, who really doesn't care about America or Americans, and would be delighted if we all starved to death. Okay, now this is from Code of Vest. Now this was a few days ago. I meant to show this. Find out why the bricks are there. We must be proactive, safe, and prepared for anything. Form your teams, mobilize, create your chain of command. Comms and mobile security details in your communities and towns. Leave nothing to chance. Now, they're not calling for violence. They're saying organize against this. Frisco, Texas, there have been groups organizing protests in Frisco for 5 p.m. this evening. All of a sudden, this shows up on the path of the protest. You want to tell me this is not planned and organized now? 2A protest 2020, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, look at this, and this is in a rural, not a rural, but a suburb. This is in the suburbs, and they just placed the bricks there. This is happening all over America. Wherever these are, the bricks just kind of end up there. Handy for everyone. Okay. This is by Eric Carmen. When 100 men show up armed with hammers at the exact same time and smash the windows of every storefront one after another, it's not a protest about George Floyd. It's America-hating Marxist anarchists bent on the destruction of our way of life. That's exactly what it is. And interesting. Says this was sent to me by, and it was several days ago now, but I'm just getting to it now. But this was sent to me by Triple H, Heather H in Houston. Has anyone seen this picture floating around of the same time that happened in America, in France? This happened in France, and look what we have. It's very, very similar. We've got a white police officer kneeling on the neck of a black man. And I believe that man died, I'm not sure. But they've had protests in France over this. So, gee, what are the odds? What are the odds of 2 such killings in 2 different areas? One on the 25th of May and one on the 28th of May. What are the odds? I mean, I'm just asking. Yeah. All right. And Governor Mike Huckabee, liberal Hollywood, is raising money to pay bail for rioters and looters. Its donors include Joe Biden's campaign staffers. If they believe the rioters are far right-wing supremacists, why are they bailing them out of jail? Well, that's a good question. Gee. I wonder if Joe Biden could answer that for us. No, Joe Biden can't answer anything for us, really. All right, I can't remember what this is, but let's take a look. Oh, yes, okay. Peaceful protesters in D.C. tackle an Antifa rioter and hand him over to the police for trying to turn things violent. He was smashing the pavement so people could have objects to throw at police. Okay, well, we don't need to look at that, but that's what he was doing. He's right there smashing. And they've also smashed war memorials and all sorts of stuff. They don't care. They don't care. They're going to smash whatever they can. And yeah, I mean, at least it's the pavement here, but the more damaging is the pieces that are being used to throw against police and other innocent people. They don't care who gets hurt. The more people hurt, I guess the more they think it helps them, helps their cause. Now let's look at this. Yes, this is the one in Paris. Okay. Holy mackerel, that's loud. And it's in French, but we can just listen. I mean, we can just watch. This is France. Now, how similar? Again, people, they don't seem to care that people are, oh, he's leaning on the front of his neck. That can't be good. Well, I don't know. I would assume that guy died, but I don't know. But there's been protests in France, and it looks very, very similar to what we just saw happen here. Yes, it does. All right. Well, I know I should be wrapping up right now, but I do want to get to as much as I can. Jeff Sessions, it's enraging to think that at this very moment an American citizen is more likely to be arrested for attending church than for firebombing a church if that person lives in a liberal city or state. It's true. He speaks the truth. And here's Mayor de Blasio's daughter. He must be really proud. Yeah, I bet he is. I don't even know how they do that with their eyes. It's crazy. Alrighty. And oh yes, let's look at this. Cops destroying their own vehicle. What's up with that? No, really. What's up with that? Okay, wait. Let's get this so y'all can see it. All you tiny phone people. I know, I think about you. I think about you, tiny phone people.
Beating up their own car right now. They're going to probably blame it on the protesters. They're beating up their own car as we speak. Right now. Guys, they are beating up. Guys, they are fucking.
They are.
Look at that shit.
Yeah, get out of the car!
Look at that shit.
Bounce on the hood,
Look at that shit. The cops are breaking their own car, and they're going to blame it on the protesters. We're here in the name of peace. The cops are breaking their own car, and they're gonna blame it on the protesters. And they put fuck 12 on it. The police are committing a crime right now. They have dogs at the ready. The cops are breaking the window to their car. Beating up their own car right now. They're going to probably blame it on the protesters.
You know, remember when all those cop cars were together and they were all smashed up, and I thought, where are the cops? Where, you know, why didn't they stand by their car or at least get out of there? Well, maybe the cops are the ones that are not in all cases. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that it's all the cops doing this. I don't think that at all. But it's interesting. Why would the police be wrecking their own car and spray painting F12 on it? Why? Well, if we could answer that, I guess we'd maybe be able to unravel this mystery. And more bricks. Y'all stay safe in Plano tonight. Mysterious pallets of bricks at Plano Parkway, 121. Now, this is from several days ago, but still, look at all these bricks. Yep, they're everywhere. Okay, well, you know, I think that I think that we are finished here for tonight anyway, and I will be bringing you, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, I will be catching us up with the Q post tomorrow, as well as keeping on top of the news. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you all, and you all make me smile with your comments and so forth. So anyway, I will see you tomorrow. Nappy head and everything. I can't wait until the hair place is open. Please, God, let it be soon. I may be forced to do my own hair. That would be horrifying. All right, guys. Well, you have a great night. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed. And be careful. If you are in Illinois and in any of those areas, please be on the lookout. Please. Stay safe. We will be praying for you. I will be praying for you. I don't want anyone to be harmed. I certainly don't want any animals to be harmed either. So anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. Good night.